The Chicago Bulls are currently in training camp. The question that many people have is how much can the Bulls realistically change with this season coming up, considering the roster hasn't changed that much? We're going to talk about all that and more on today's Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily Chicago Bulls podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. My name is Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls Central and Chicago Bears Central YouTube pages and podcasts. And we're going to get into it today. A lot of things coming out from training camp today. Yesterday, I should say, Isaac Okoro was interviewed. Billy Donovan was interviewed. Noa Essengue was also interviewed. So we're going to touch base on all those things. And we're going to start off with Billy Donovan. I think it's a good place to start there, as he is the head coach of the Chicago Bulls. And the thing that you really got from Billy Donovan, he talked to the press for almost 20 minutes after the Bulls' first practice yesterday, which is a considerably long amount of time when you think about it. I think Okoro's interview was about 8 minutes. Noa Essengue's was even shorter than that, right? So, it is what it is. But Billy Donovan went pretty in depth in regards to what the Bulls are trying to do here in training camp. And it seems like what the Bulls they're kind of using a similar thought process behind changing the offense. You remember, many people remember last season at the first practice of training camp, the Bulls moved to a 20-second shot clock to help them kind of learn and adapt to the pace that Billy Donovan wanted that team to play with. And it seems like this season there's a noticeable focus on defense, physicality, and just being ready for the rigors of the season, right? And that's admirable, right? Because that's what you need to focus on. And I'm somebody who I look at it and I say the first thing that anybody has to do, if you're going to fix anything, the very first thing you have to do is recognize that it's going to be a problem, that what's a problem, right? And so Billy Donovan has realized it. And one of the things that he talked about, and he said how the Bulls were 11th in defensive field goal shooting percentage yesterday, last season, which is a really good place to be in, right? Like that if you looked at that raw number, and this is why I always say, as much as I'm an analytics guy, you guys know I'll throw analytics and advanced stats at you all day long, right? Is that you have to still pair it with the eye test. And so the Bulls being 11th in defensive field goal percentage, but still being one of the worst defenses in the league, it highlights how you need more than just that, right? Like you need to protect the rim. You need to stop teams from getting in the paint. You need to stop those things. And so, Billy Donovan is really addressing that, namely with how they play out on the perimeter, right? And he talked about how the Bulls, they started off the season 28th in defensive efficiency. Over the last 25 games, they were 12th in defensive efficiency. They finished around 19th on the season, right? So that leaves the Bulls, they've shown with this roster that they can play better defense. Now, that wasn't consistent. And you can't look at that glimpse and then say, okay, we gotta tap into that. It's the process of how you get there. And so it seems like this coaching staff is really focused on that process now. You heard that Billy Donovan, kept one group, used two different groups. One group he kept out there, the other one he was subbing in and out. And so that's the physicality that you're looking at. That's what you're talking about there. So, with this focused improvement on defense, not to say that it means that you're going to get the best results. You still have to have people that buy in. You still got to do it. But Billy Donovan talked about how it's not going to be about Josh Giddey or Kobe going out and locking down their guy. That's not going to be that. Even with Okoro being on this team, right? And what he has been to this team, or to his previous teams defensively, that you can't bet on him just coming in and just changing things for you. It has to be a total team effort, and team defense has to be the focus here. And that's what I like to hear, is that they're focused on team defense. And that is something you can be a really good team defense, even if you don't have the best individual one-on-one defenders. It's not about that, right? Like when you have those one-on-one guys, that's what takes you to another level. When you have that guy that you can go out there and say, go shut that down, that guy down, go and disrupt this guy, go and make it difficult, go make the night difficult on this guy. So you need some of those guys. And Billy talked about Isaac being one of those guys. He talked about Ayo potentially being one of those guys, saying that, while the defensive analytics don't always show that for Ayo, that he believes that Ayo Dosunmu can be one of those guys. but it's still about the team aspect of the defense. So you have to have everybody bought in and communicating on the defensive side of the ball. One of the reasons that Lonzo is so impactful on the court is because Lonzo communicates on the court. He calls out. He's a really good, like as smart as he is offensively, he's a really good guy at identifying what offenses are trying to do. And so when you have a guy out there like that that's able to communicate those things, it helps you get over the curve defensively. So communication is going to have to be a big part of what the team is going to how they're going to improve defensively. He's going to have to do that. He's going to have to lock in. And so if this team can lock in and take pride as a team defense and do that, then the sky's the limit for this team, right? And I've said it many times, with the way and brand of offense that we play, you don't need to be the most elite defense. If you can hover around 15th, 16th defensively, you can be pretty damn good. I mean, for example, like look at the Bulls, is they 19th, right? And so, you got, there's areas of clear growth for this team defensively, but then you've also added some players that can definitely help you. You've added Okoro, you've added Iodosumu. You're getting him back from injury. You've added Noa Essengue to this team, right? So you're hoping that those things, as well as improvement from Modest Buzelis defensively, that's going to help you get to that place. And we'll see. And hey, and Billy Donovan talked about, and Josh talked about it too, like in media day. Josh Giddey was a lot better of a defender as the season went on. And, he talked about wanting to lock in on that, wanting to be a better defender. So now it's time to put up or shut up. Was it just lip service that you were paying to want to improve defensively, or are you going to go in and actually put in that work? And is that what you're going to do? And we shall see. Levante says they can definitely improve defensively, but don't forget you still have to score the basketball. Defense is good. Offense wins game. I got to disagree with that. Balance wins games. You need both of it. You need both of them, because there's been games where you can clearly see a team wins defensively. But I think the Bulls, and the reason why you're seeing a focus on defense is because the Bulls offense showed itself top in the league in pace, top in the league in three-point attempts, towards the top of the league in three-point makes, right? Field goal shooting percentage, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they were top 12 in the league in field goal shooting percentage. The three-point shooting percentage, they need to work on the efficiency there, because while they were top 5, I think, in three-point makes, they were still towards like the bottom 12 as far as efficiency there is percentage. So they got to improve on that. But like, it's balance that really wins games, at least in my opinion. Not to crap on your opinion there. Shay says, as long as we addressed our main problems, we can fix a lot of things. Agree with you. I'm not going to lie. I give credit to Billy Donovan, especially when you already recognize what type of route you want to help you win. I don't know what you meant there. I'm not gonna lie to you, Shay. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm not trying to roast you, but yeah, that was a little bit of a rough read there, brother. A little bit of a rough read. Haize, that is true, because when you look at Indiana last year, they weren't super great individually defensively, but they came together as a team to get key stops. That's a great point. Right now, I do think I want to be clear here. I think when you have an anchor defensively, it kind of makes that other stuff easier, right? And not to say that Miles Turner is like the best defensive center in the world or the best rim protector, but we do know he has a gear that he can go in defensively that Vooch could never, right? But to your point, like Tyrese Halliburton isn't a great defender. Ben Mathurin has been an okay defender over his time. Pascal isn't the defender that he once was either, but you had those times when Nembhard and Nesmith came in and they really changed the tide of games defensively with the effort that they were able to put in. And so, you have to have a team that buys into that. So I completely agree with you there. If you have that team buy in on what your defensive identity is trying to be, it really does make things easier for you. So it's just going to be a fun thing to watch for this team to see if the way that they turn their offense around, because many people will remember the Bulls offense, while individually like Zach and Vooch and DeMar had some good statistic seasons, the Bulls offense was never elite, right? And so we took that, we removed the offensive piece like DeMar DeRozan, traded Zach LaVine there after the trade deadline, but the Bulls still had a very high-powered and efficient offense. So if you can get that same type of buy-in to what we wanted to do offensively last year, to the defensive side of the ball, I don't know how good of a defensive team they could be with a buy-in, but you know that it could be a lot better than what it was consistently last year. And if you make that step up defensively, and you maintain your offense, who knows, right? So, Billy Donovan is at least saying the right things now. It seems like they're practicing the right things in practice so far. We just got to see if it's going to come together on the basketball court in games this season. And that's going to be the fun part, to watch this team try to discover a defensive identity to match what they started to build on as far as an offensive identity last year. And we'll see if they can do that. But with that said, we're going to switch gears. We're going to talk about Isaac Okoro. I'm trying to start saying his name right. I'm country and I grew up in Europe, so the mix between those two things got my accent jacked up. But we're going to talk about Isaac Okoro. We're going to talk about him coming up next. But first, we got to get into a message from FanDuel. And I didn't press the right button. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I've built parlays, tried player props, and even followed live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting, and when you got a little something riding on the action, you have more fun. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. More Locked On Bulls coming up next. All right, y'all, as I'm getting my bearings and gears together. By the way, Pat the Designer is out the entirety of this week. We will start having guests tomorrow. I got a special guest lined up for you guys. It's family, so it is somebody that you guys will be familiar with, but it's somebody who hasn't been on the show for a show very consistently. So looking forward to bringing you guys that. But with that said, let's talk about Isaac Okoro. I'm getting it together. Let's talk about Okoro. So the thing with Isaac is that while, and Billy Donovan said this as well, you can't expect Isaac to come in and it completely just be your physicality. He can help set a tone, and he can help in some places for sure. But if Billy Donovan didn't already show his hand at Media Day, I think in the way that Billy Donovan has talked about Isaac, in the way that Isaac has come in and talked about his role and what he's done in Cleveland and how he's ready to accept any role here in Chicago, it feels like, and I'll say feels like right now because it's one day. We've had one practice so far. I think Bulls practice actually is going to be starting here in about an hour or so today. But it already seems like Okoro is separating himself from in that pack because he's bringing something that's needed to this team, right? Toughness, physicality, defense, bringing that to the starting lineup. And I don't know what exactly the overall impact is going to be, right? Is that, and we'll see. But when you have players that play roles and their roles are simplified, and it's pretty straightforward. The reason why Okoro can have such a really good impact on this Bulls team is because he is bringing something that otherwise we have been missing, right? And yeah, Io's a really good defender. I think Io's a really good on-ball defender. I think he's growing as an off-ball defender as well, as far as getting in those pass lanes, things like that. But you're talking about Okoro as a player who literally the entirety of it, he talked about it that since he was 6 years old when he realized the path to me getting on this court is defense. That's what I'm going to have to do. That's what I'm going to have to hang my hat on is my defense. And you could tell that he takes pride in it defensively. So I think the path that he has here to being the starting small forward is probably bigger than I gave it credit for initially, right? And that's great. And that's not to knock Io. I think Io's going to be the lead player coming off the bench. I think he's going to be the sixth man. He's going to have plenty of minutes. He's going to play in a lot of different lineups with a lot of different positions. But if you're inserting something, the thing that I think is going to be key for Isaac to really thrive in the Bulls starting lineup is how well can he hit that corner three? Because one thing with Josh Giddey, playing on the court with Josh Giddey, is that open three is going to be there for him. It's going to be there for him a lot, right? He has to be ready for the pass. And because he's been a role player the entirety of his NBA career, he's been playing off of players. And keep in mind, neither Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland is the passer that Josh Giddey is. So I don't know if Isaac is going to all of a sudden see an uptick in points per game. He may stay around the 9-10 points that he's hovered at for his career. But if he can do that consistently and hit the open shots, what that does is that gives Modest an opportunity to grow offensively, because one thing with Kevin Huerter being in that starting lineup, you're going to have to get Kevin Huerter shots, right? And so because Isaac is more focused on the defensive side of the ball. If you're looking for growth offensively from Modest Buzelis, it may help that. And also it helps the defensive side for Modest Buzelis. Billy Donovan talked about how hard it is to guard everything at the rim, especially when you let things go through the perimeter. Isaac can help with that, and thus it makes Modest's shot blocking ability even stronger, because now you're slowing players down at the perimeter a little bit more when you put Okoro on them, and thus you can then factor your defense into it a little bit more, right? So I think that helps a lot with that one. Great point here from Arrow as well. Talking helps. You got to communicate on the defensive side. Now, I don't know when you jumped in. We talked about that a little bit earlier, but your own point here. You got to communicate on the defensive side of the ball. You have to communicate on the defensive side of the ball. I want to repeat again. You have to communicate on the defensive side of the ball. And that's where the Bulls focus. You remember when Alex Caruso first came to this team, and one of the things that we talked about in his first practice was he was like, hey, they're so quiet. Why is everybody quiet, right? You got to communicate on that defensive side of the ball. And if I'm not mistaken, Patrick Beverley kind of said the same thing when he came in here, I believe. So, you don't want to be so quiet. You got to communicate, and that's going to help you, especially when you don't necessarily have players with the best defensive basketball IQ. You got to communicate what you're seeing out there. You got to stay connected, right? And he has the chance to be that. He really has a chance to be that. Shay says, Okoro setting the tone is a really good thing. This is early in season because he's showing that he will be an impact player. Here's the thing, too. With Kobe White sitting out the preseason, and I thought about this literally right before, I almost changed the title of the video, is that so there's two things that Billy Donovan could do, right? If Billy Donovan wants to put out the best lineup, he can start Ayo Dosunmu at the 2, Okoro at the 3, right? Or if he wants to, because again, preseason, whether you win or lose, I know there are going to be some Bulls fans that if Bulls lose in the preseason, is going to be, oh my God, we're going to suck again because we just lost 3 preseason games. Oh my God. But outside of those people, right, is that what you can do is that you can start Kevin Huerter at the 2. You can start Isaac Okoro at the 3, and then still bring Ayo off the bench. What are you doing then? You're still playing players into what their role is going to be during the season, and that gives you an opportunity to see who brings it more in that starting lineup. Is it going to be Kevin Huerter? Is it going to be Okoro? Is it going to be those guys? What are they going to bring for you in that starting lineup? And that's the thing that you're looking for there, right? So we shall see what happens. But overall, you talk about adding a player that helps the identity that you're trying to build. Okoro is bringing that. And I think that's going to be something that continues to help this team achieve what that next step is. But a couple of you guys got some questions in here I want to answer before we end this segment. Sure Thing says, how do you feel about P. Will coming into this year? The way that I personally feel about P. Will is he's going to have to earn everything that he gets. I don't have any expectations for P. Will. I don't know how much P. Will is going to be in the rotation. I don't know any of those things. I know that the picture the picture that got posted on the Bulls Twitter of P. Will out there with the projected starters already sent people spiraling. But I think you got to take your cues from what was actually said in media day. When they talked about the battle for the starting 3, they only talked about Kevin Huerter and Isaac. So, and that's not to say that P. Will can't come into training camp and step up and maybe surprise some people. That's always a chance. And if it happens, great. If you're $18 million paid 24-year-old player, if I'm not mistaken, steps up finally this year, great. That helps you in some areas, but I'm just not betting on it is where I stand. Jerry asked another P. Will question. He says, do you think Billy Donovan will give more minutes to Noah than P. Will? Not initially. I'll say this. If Noa Essengue is at the place at the start of the season where he's ahead of P. Will in the depth chart, I would love that. And I mean, that says a lot about Noa Essengue and his readiness. Somebody who, is the youngest. Noa Essengue is the youngest player in the NBA. The youngest player in the NBA. Now, he has played professionally for 2 or 3 years. He's played with his national team. He has a lot of experience, even at being that young. But, he even talked about yesterday how he needs to adapt to the game and things like that. But I don't know if I'd be willing to say that he's going to play ahead of P. Will yet, even with, all the doubt and stuff around P. Will. If I'm wrong on that, I'm wrong on that. That won't be a bad thing. But we'll see. And I think that Noah has the opportunity, when you look at what he brings defensively, what he brings in transition, all those type of things. And we'll talk about that. The next segment is focused very heavily on Noa Essengue. So we'll get into that a little bit more coming up here in a second. But yeah, but as it stands, I'm excited to see what Okoro brings to this team and if he does it consistently. And we shall see. He's under contract for 2 years. So, that's something they don't have to worry about. And we'll see what the future holds there. But let's go ahead and get into the last break for today. We're going to get into a message from Monarch Money. And after that, we're going to talk about Noa Essengue. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have a full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. You can identify that you aren't saving as much money as you thought you can with Monarch Money as well. They can help you track everything between shared and personal accounts, even set goals between those accounts as well, so you have a full financial picture of what you're trying to accomplish. Don't let this financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNBA. Or Locked On Bulls coming up next. All right, Bulls fans, before we get up out of here today, let's talk about Noa Essengue. Now, Noa Essengue did not talk with the media for very long. It wasn't very long. And one of the questions that he was asked was, has him and Billy Donovan talked about his role? And he said that what Billy Donovan asked him to do is to play defense and to give energy on both sides of the ball. And that's really what Billy Donovan is asked of him right now. And I think when you look at a rookie as young as what Noa Essengue is, I think that makes sense to simplify the role. Like, we'll talk about what Noah can be offensively as we grow and things like that, because I do think there are some things there you can definitely look at Noa Essengue and say that, I don't think he's as raw offensively as some people think he is offensively. He's still raw. Make no mistake about it. I'm not here to say that he's not raw. He's still a very raw offensive player. Make no doubt about that. But he's not as raw as what some people were thinking. But I think for the Bulls, much like we talked about with Isaac, all he has to do is on offense is hit the open shots, play in transition, run to the basket sometimes, hit open shots, right? Noah's going to be the same way. Like, I don't know if Noah creates his own shot or has looked to do that at any of the first 2 years of his career. I think you're looking at a player like Josh Giddey, like Kobe off drives, create for him, lob threat, right? That's going to be a big thing for Noa Essengue. But it's that defense, playing with energy is going to be a big thing for Noah. You know what Noah did do, though, very well overseas is getting to the free throw line. He was almost near elite at getting to the free throw line. So if you look at those things, right, and we're just talking about him playing off his strengths. Defensively, solid on-ball defender, block shots, be a good weak side defender. If you can do that in year one, getting the passing lanes, if you can do those 4 things in year one defensively, that's really good. Offensively, run, catch lobs, attack the rim, hit open shots. That's all you got to do. If you're wide open, take the shot, hit it. If you're not, pass it on, right? If you can simplify the game like that for Noa Essengue in his rookie year, and that you can get the best out of him. Now, that's not to say that there aren't going to be times where Noah's going to have to maybe take somebody off the dribble. But I think you're just going to try to simplify it. He's not going to be maximized or prioritized in the offense, right? That's not going to happen quite yet. So I think Noah has a clear path on where his strengths align with what the Bulls need him to do. And then, of course, work with the player development department. But, I've talked about this a lot. The Bulls are going to play probably a 10-man rotation. 9 of those spots are already taken up. 9 of them are already taken up. That's your starting 5. Kevin Huerter, we're going to say, is the starting 5 now. And then on your bench, Trey Jones definitely playing. Io's definitely playing. Zach Collins definitely playing. And if Kevin Huerter's in the starting lineup, Isaac Okoro is definitely playing, right? Those 4 players. That's 9 of your rotation right there. So that leaves Dalen Terry, Julian Phillips, Patrick Williams, Jalen Smith, Noa Essengue. 5 players. 5 fighting over 1 spot. That's what you have here. 5 players fighting over 1 spot. And that 1 spot is already inconsistent, right? So I'll say this, and I think that Noah brings a lot potentially of all those guys combined. The defensive P-Will, the length and shooting of a Jalen Smith, right? The athleticism of a Julian Phillips and Dalen Terry. If he can legitimately crack into that rotation this season, the sky's the limit for him. the sky's the limit for him. And so, we've heard a lot of things of his mentality similar to Modest Buzelis on the court, that he's more polished. You could tell in the media day press conference that Billy Donovan is really excited about this kid. He's just tempering his expectations. So there's a lot of positivity going on here around what Noa Essengue can be. He just has to prove it. And I think that providing that structure, and Billy Donovan's already talked about, he's going to have to earn everything he gets. And if he does that, we'll see. We'll see what happens there. We shall see what happens. But that is my time for today, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following us at Bulls. Nope, that's wrong. At Locked On Bulls. You can follow me at CEO Haize. Locked On Bulls is free and available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube, the Odyssey app, Amazon Fire TV, Roku TV, Fubo TV. Basically, anywhere you want it, you can get it. We'll see you guys bright and early tomorrow, man, with a guest. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.